Good evening and welcome to the Carnegie Town Hall. This meeting of the City Council will begin in a few moments. The City Council meets on the first, second, and third Tuesday of each month at 7 p.m. and serves as the city's policymaking and legislative body. Each meeting is governed by Robert's Rule of Order unless those guidelines conflict with city ordinance or charter. City Council meetings offer an opportunity for citizens to speak directly to their elected representatives. Those in attendance are invited to address the Council during the public input segment at the beginning of the agenda. At that time, any issue that is not subject to formal action later in the agenda can be addressed. Testimony that concerns a resolution or an ordinance's second reading is only allowed when those specific agenda items are being addressed by the Council. When addressing the Council, citizens should speak directly into the microphones at the podium and state their names for the record after being recognized by the chair. To accommodate and respect all viewpoints, citizen comments are limited by ordinance to no more than 5 minutes each. Comments should be respectful and focused on providing new information that will benefit the Council's deliberative process. By city ordinance, all remarks must be addressed to the City Council as a body and not to any City Council member, including the mayor. The chair reserves the right to limit the number of speakers. City Council meetings are broadcast live on CityLink and online at siouxfalls.org. Information regarding the City Council, its committees, meetings, briefings, and members is available by visiting siouxfalls.org/council or by calling the Council office at 605-367-8085. Thank you for your interest in Sioux Falls City Government.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. It is Tuesday, November 7th. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. We'll begin our meeting by introducing you to your City Council.
Council members Rolfing.
Here.
Selberg.
Here.
Starr.
Present.
Staley.
Here.
Erickson.
Here.
Erpenbach. Kiley.
Here.
Neitzert.
Very good. Thanks, councilors. In the City of Sioux Falls, we begin our council meetings with an invocation, and we're very, very pleased to have Senior Pastor Bob Rudebush back with us to lead us in that invocation. Pastor is with Sioux Falls First United Methodist Church. What we'd ask is that you stand for the invocation, and then please remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor Bob, welcome back.
Thank you very much. Mayor, council members, guests, and friends, Romans 8:24-28. For in this hope we were saved, but hope that is seen is no hope at all. Who hopes for what they already have? But if we hope for what we do not yet have, we wait for it patiently. In the same way, the Spirit helps us in our weakness. We do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us through wordless groans. For he who searches our hearts knows the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for God's people in accordance with the will of God. And we know that in all things God works for good for those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. A common sight, or I just recently read about a common sight in Southwest Desert, is a plant called the century plant. It's unique. It thrives in rocky, mountainous desert sites. It's dramatic. It slays leaves that grow up to a foot wide and could even almost be 12 feet in diameter. But what makes the century plant unusual is its name. As it suggests, it's a long reproduction cycle. For 20 to 30 years, no, not 100 years, but the 6-foot-tall plant stands the same height and puts out no flowers. Then one year, without warning, a new bud sprouts. The bud, which resembles a tree trunk-sized asparagus spear, shoots into the sky at the height of 20 to 40 feet. Then it crowns itself with several clumps of yellowish blossoms that last up to 3 weeks. Like the century plant, many of the most glorious things that happen to us come only after a long wait. The word that I hope we all go away with is the word patience. Because in the Bible, walking the faith includes patience. It is often described as a walk, seldom a run, and never a mad dash. In a culture that wants everything yesterday, I'm here to remind myself, and hopefully all of you, that patience is a virtue. It's a gift that often leads to wonderful and good things. So next time you run out of patience, just think about the century plant. Think about how long a wait for a new bud sprouts and displays the beautiful blossoms of faith and trust in God. Let us pray. Gracious God, we just thank you for the gift of freedom. And on this election night in many places around our country, we celebrate and are grateful for the gift of our democracy. We pray and are grateful for the opportunity to vote for our leaders, and we just pray for our leaders this night. Give us the gift of patience and help us when we try to go too fast, to push to make things happen fast. Remind us that patience is a fruit of your Spirit. Just as you rested on the seventh day, provide for each of us the gift of patience and rest. Create in each of us the space to allow your Spirit to work in our lives, in our work, in our community. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good to see you again. Thank you. Thank you. Patience. Hi, Paul. Well, good evening, everybody. Stacy, welcome, Stacy. Good to have you here. Come on up. This is Stacy Thiessen. I'm going to read a proclamation. Or did you have some comments before I read that? Very good. Thank you. On behalf of the city of Sioux Falls, I would like to read a proclamation, and it is as follows. Whereas every night in the city of Sioux Falls, there are homeless children, women, and men in need of shelter and supportive services. They become homeless because of domestic violence, poverty, untreated mental health issues, medical issues, relationship strain, having served in active combat, a combination of factors, and so much more. Whereas homeless families and individuals lack a permanent, safe, and a nighttime residence. They live in shelters, transitional living facilities, vehicles, outdoors, in places not meant for human habitation with strangers they have just met, or at imminent risk of being displaced from their residence. Whereas hundreds of individuals in our city called Sioux Falls have been identified as homeless, including more than 1,290 unduplicated individuals who have utilized the Bishop Dudley Hospitality House and the 319 unduplicated guests at the St. Francis House so far this year. Whereas the number of children identified as homeless in Sioux Falls has increased steadily over the years and now includes more than 220 unduplicated families identified by the Sioux Falls School District so far this school year. Whereas the complicated nature of poverty and addiction continues to create personal struggles for families, resulting in more than 188 children being assigned to CASA, or the court-appointed special advocates, so far this year because of repeated abuse and or neglect. Whereas preventing and ending homelessness and hunger is essential to the stability of families, the growth and vitality of businesses, and our community, Sioux Falls, as a whole. Whereas there are many organizations and faith-based entities committed to sheltering and providing supportive services, as well as meals and food supplies to the homeless. And they are working diligently to prevent and end homelessness and hunger by working collaboratively while striving to avoid duplication of services. Now, therefore, I, Mike Huther, Mayor of the City of Sioux Falls, do hereby proclaim November 2017 as Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Month in the City of Sioux Falls and encourage all members to recognize the continued need for services for the homeless and hungry in Sioux Falls and to support those organizations working to meet those needs. Let's give Stacy and everybody associated with this a round of applause. Council, thank you. I now would like to turn it over to Russ Sorensen, please. Russ has a special presentation he'd like to make. Russ, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. members of the City Council, members of the viewing audience, citizens in attendance. I'm here to talk to you tonight briefly about the Citizen Planning Academy. Tonight, the City of Sioux Falls would like to recognize and celebrate this 2017 Citizen Planning Academy graduates. Utilizing various social media, news releases, emails, neighborhood associations, and neighborhood watch organizations, when with online registration, we had 38 people register. We had 28 persons who participated in both events in the evening, and they received their graduation certificates. You probably are asking, what is the Citizen Planning Academy? It's an educational program, the first of its kind in the City of Sioux Falls, that was accessible to any resident who's interested in learning more about the role planning plays in building community. The goal of the Academy was to empower citizens to achieve a better understanding of community planning, its language and its processes, so that they can effectively engage in planning efforts both in their neighborhoods and in their city. We encourage the participants to use their strong voices and to participate in such a way that they become new city builders. The Academy provided an opportunity for the Planning and Building Services Department to showcase our vision and our mission statements, to put faces behind our names, get out into the community. It encouraged citizen participation and empowerment to achieve better understanding and community building. It offered an educational forum in community planning. And yes, it increased public awareness as to who we are and what we do. We had 2 sessions. The first one, briefly, was what is city planning and why plan? It was the basics of planning. We talked about the comprehensive plan, the zoning ordinance. The second session was a little bit more, it was beyond the basics. Planning in our city. It talked about exploring planning applications and our public hearing processes. We talked about transportation. Why do roads have to be so wide? And what are daily trips considerations? Yes, we had group projects, we had breakout sessions, and yes, we had homework assignments for the participants as well. We also heard from the citizens that participated that they'd like the city to help develop an academy toolkit to perhaps be used by other city departments to take out into the community and engage, educate, and encourage citizen participation and empowerment. We had 21 persons that completed an online survey. They said, we'd like to do an online survey rather than a paper survey. Overwhelmingly, the Planning Academy did meet their expectations. It also felt that the staff dedicated time for each agenda topic presented, and they helped adjust the agenda. And also they recommended that the City Planning Committee should be available to other persons in the future. I'd like to thank my planning colleagues, Jason Bieber, Sam Trebillicock, Jeff Schmidt, and Director Mike Cooper for their efforts and their hard work to put this together. You, Mayor Huther, and you city councilors, each for supporting the efforts of our department for this pilot project. There's a couple slides here toward the end where there's the Citizen Planning Academy graduates are picking up their certificates. You can see the smiles. And on the other one, final, is our group of 28 who participated. At this time, I'd like the first ever Sioux Falls Citizen Planning Academy graduates who are in attendance tonight to please stand and be recognized as a group. And I would say, too, that these participants are truly graduates. They're engaged in their community. They want to share what they've learned, and they want to be our new city builders. Thank you.
Thank you, Russ. We appreciate it, and I know the council appreciates everybody that's in attendance that were part of that as well, and as well as those who are at home. So, Russ, thank you. Great job.
Thank you.
Looking forward to more. Councilors, we'll now move to our consent agenda. Any motions, changes, or discussion?
Move to approve, Neitzer.
Second.
Councilor Neistert's made a motion to approve our consent agenda, sent by Councilor Chair Kiley. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Neitzer.
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Thank you. Now our regular agenda, Council, any changes to that?
Move to approve, Erpenbach. Second, Erickson.
Councilor Buck's made a motion to approve our regular agenda tonight, seconded by Councilor Vice Chair Erickson. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Neitzer.
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Thank you, Council. Welcome, everybody. I know there's some items on the agenda later on that many of you want to speak to, and we certainly appreciate that. But if there's any other items that you want to talk about with the council, please just come forward, introduce yourself, and if you can keep your comments to 5 minutes or less, we'd appreciate that. Would anybody be interested?
Well, we want to talk about that.
Yes, yeah, and that'll come later on. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Hi, once again, I'm here, Stephen Ciano, and I do feel that this body, mayor and city council, does have a responsibility to the people of Sioux Falls to assert a supervisory or oversight role over city entities, that being Human Relations Office, the Falls Community Health, which has confirmed, documented my disability is PTSD, not delusional disorder, and the police, who I have informed of crimes being committed, with over $300,000 reportedly being stolen through fraud by First Premier Bank and held in a phony fiduciary account. And I've reported this to the people in charge there, and it's gone nowhere. It's just been ignored. Well, plausible deniability because they think I might be indeed delusional and incompetent, as they falsely claimed. That was a fraud, and that has been proven. Now maybe we can direct the police to make some arrests, maybe we can get whoever is in charge of prosecuting for the welfare of the people. There's a lot of people have died. I have been denied through misrepresenting people's activities and the nature of my disability by public and private entities. Southeastern Behavioral Health Care has, that's where Bruce died, I understand. I spoke of him in the past. He was a fellow veteran, and I suspect that he and many others that have died under the care of that organization are victims of that organization. We need to do something. We need to assert some oversight, which NAMI won't do, and the state advocate for the disabled will not do. We need to protect our veterans. We need to protect our homeless. We need to protect our mentally ill who cannot stand up for themselves. And also, when I have spoken before this body, the nature of what I have presented has been, I believe, deliberately, routinely misrepresented in the summary that I've seen afterwards. And I want to make it clear that I do hold this body accountable for related crimes. If there's any deaths, any effort to cause my death, like say through denial of access, deliberate misrepresentation of my actual condition and situation, and effort to cause my death through prolonged deprivation of my needs, which was done and admittedly done, well, there's cause for action. So, Falls Community Health, through my persistence perhaps, has obtained those records I was seeking, and now I hope that they will make an effort, or more of an effort, to obtain payment through VA for care outside of the VA, because I cannot trust the VA after what they have done for 40 years to cause me harm and death. So I don't want to go back there, although I have assurance.
Stephen,
Yes.
thank you, sir. Thank you so much, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Folks, anybody else? Welcome.
Microphone. Hello.
Hi.
Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Heather Pastor. First time I've been to one of these. Oh, okay. I kind of what Stephen was talking about Southeastern and other places that like deny people the rightful like help and the rightful information about them and stuff. My mom, Caroline Elizabeth Cressley, she was one of those people that used to go to Southeastern, and before she passed away on me, they were not helping her in the matter that they need. Matter of fact, it was a lot of medications that they put my mom on that caused her physical health. And to top it off, my mom was stuck in nursing homes where they were actually neglecting my mom. And then my mother died in a nursing home. I don't have much family at all, except for my fiance. And we've been out here homeless since 2015 from a landlord-tenant issue, where my landlords were stalking and harassing me, verbal threats, actually made attempts to try to kill me, put me back in the hospital, all kinds of stuff. I don't know what it is you guys do here, but right now, ever since everything happened, I've been trying to pursue a civil matter because of my abilities and because of everything I went through and what it led up to. Me and my fiance right now have to pretty much spend our whole SSI income that we get to live off of for hotels. We were kicked out of the missions. They started treating me badly. They were calling me foul names. I don't know if I can say this in here. I was called a street punk 4 different times by a staff member there. Other girls were antagonizing me. We don't have assistant voucher anymore because of the living situation, because of the runaround game, and because it's everywhere we go, it's you can't be here. Oh no, we deny you help for this place, or you can't be here, or you'll be arrested. Now I'm being assaulted by the police officers of this state, claiming that I am criminally coming on a property that I'm not supposed to be on that I paid for. And I don't know what to say other than I wish to God I could find the right source, a person to help somebody like me with my abilities, direct me to the right civil attorney so that I can get this matter going. Because I've been getting documents on my own because nobody else will help me to prove that the way that people get treated in this state, it's not right. It's true. A lot of people's been dying from this. Me and my fiance live off of our income. We don't have any other source. I have one family member in Sioux Falls, and he could care less about me. And that's my brother. And I guess that's all I have to say. So thank you. I've never been to one of these before.
All right, Heather, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Would anybody else want to engage the council? Welcome.
Hello, Mayor. How are you doing today?
Good.
I can verify.
Name, please?
Huh?
Your name, please?
James. I had a cold, sorry. James Reed.
James, thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't hear his last name.
Reed.
I can verify how the Mission Street, because I've had one lady that she no longer works for the Salvation Army, but she used to be the case manager up there, and she used to work at the Bishop House at night. Well, as the meantime, I'm staying in the car, as my fiance said we were. They, some church was nice church enough to go down and give all the residents there brand spanking new blankets. And after they left, they grabbed up all the blankets and took to the furniture mission. I know it's hard because I know there's a lot of them here, and I know a lot of them don't want to do nothing, but there are some that are trying to make it. And I've had some of them to where I even literally had to stop and gave my last $6 to this lady and her kids because nobody would help her, and I was told not to do that from church and from like the Gospel Mission. I said, well, someone's got to, because I mean it's not right, and it's like I said, it's I can't find a place because I can't live here and I can't live there, can't be here, can't do there, and I'm not complaining, okay? It's just that something's got to be done because it's getting way out of hand, and the way they do treat people, it's really not right because I've had quite a few of them, and even one of them works at Fifth Street, and I can verify to what Stephen said and what Heather said about Fifth Street and about behavioral health is I know they try to force a lot of meds, and I used to be on heavy medicated myself, okay, and I don't want to go back on that because I know it does, and I've seen the way some of them walk around the streets, and there's a lot of them there that are from Fifth Street that are homeless, and which, in my opinion, Fifth Street, yeah, it could be good for some people, but they don't do nothing. It's like you go there for an hour or 15, 20 minutes, you see your worker, okay, here's next week, see you next week. And it's getting, I can't even find a job because I couldn't even get a bell ringer's job. And I love to work. And it's just, but I'm not going to give up because I know a lot of people would like that, and I'm determined not to, you know. And I do like helping people, and I try to help as much as I can, everyone. And because I even pick up people from the Bishop House to take them to go look for work. And I even go and say, hey, look, this place is hiring, you know. And it's not easy. It's hard, you know, and it's really hard for people, you know, that got mental illness, because they look at them different, like, oh, you can't do that, and you can't tell her that because she's a go-getter. She's a very determined person to do something, and you know, she works hard. And I know there's a lot of people here that walk the street that try to, and I've seen it, and I've literally stopped some people from doing things, which is, you know, it's bad. Something's got to be helping me. We got all these other houses that got torn down, like billions out of them down on 41st in Minnesota. There's two or three blocks full of houses. Boom, are gone. They made a big parking lot for Billions Automotive. I know. You got a lot of nice businesses here, and it's really looking great.
James, thank you very much, James. Welcome.
Scott Harrisman, Sioux Falls. Just to kind of touch on what they talked about, I said for a long time, we go a long ways in solving homelessness in this town if we'd stop having so much wage collusion between all the corporations, but I don't want to go into that. I was watching earlier at the informational, some contract renewals for SMG and for the pavilion. And as we saw and we heard, and numbers I've still asked from the city and still have not received, how much money are the promoters and artists making at the event center? It's a grand mystery. Well, we got kind of a non-answer today from Terry Torkelson. You know, he said Garth Brooks pretty much took about 99.9% of his ticket sales with him out the door. We also got another answer to a question I've been asking. Have we been using any revenue from the ultra-popular, so successful event center to pay down the mortgage? Nope. We pay that out of our CIP, a fund that was set aside years ago to, guess what? Fix roads. I don't understand why we take the profits from SMG and the money that they make and stick it in a fund that they control when we should be taking that money and help paying down the facility. Ever since the event center's open, tax revenue's actually gone down. So I'm still wondering where this economic impact from the event center is. SMG really needs to promote more of their own shows. The money they make from those shows goes to the city in our coffer to help pay the mortgage. Seems kind of ridiculous that I got to spend, $75 to $100 to see a show, and then turn around and you take my road money to pay the mortgage on the building. If it's so successful and it makes so much money, we should start using that money to pay the mortgage. But of course, we'll have to wait for a new administration for that. As for the pavilion, they do great things. We know that. I go to shows there. I go to the Visual Arts Center. I think the thing that's frustrating about the renewal of their contract is the fact that there hasn't been a city audit for 10 years. 10 years. 2007 was the last time we decided to audit them. When that audit occurred, it was suggested by the auditor at the time that the city goes in once a year, surprises the accounting department, and looks at the books. They've not done that either for 10 years. So there's not been anybody from the city to look at the pavilion's book for 10 years. But they're doing great things. Just trust them on that. The other thing is that they took away the free Visual Arts Center. Sure, you can go there on a Tuesday, and pay the parking meter to go in there on Tuesday and see things for free. You can go on First Friday for free. If you're a veteran or a senior citizen or a kid or whatever, some other special interest group, you get to go in there for free. The thing is when the pavilion opened, the Visual Arts Center was promised to be free to everybody. And the reason that is that if you got someone off the street who wouldn't normally go into a building like that, they would go in there, they'd go into the free Visual Arts Center, look around and go, hey, this is kind of cool. What else is in the building? They might wander over to the Science Center and spend some money. Now, obviously, we probably have to charge for national shows. I get that. But really, I think when you guys renew the contract next week, you should put a condition on that contract that the Visual Arts Center for regional shows will be free again, like promised to begin with. The other thing that frustrates me about this is that I.D. Bailey finished their audit of the pavilion for 2016, and on June 20th, 2017, they handed it over to the board of directors. I was told by a city councilor that it wasn't going to be ready till today or November. So why was it just sitting around for these several months? No one could look at it. No one knows what the financials were from last year. Just sat in a box somewhere, and they just sprung it on us a week before or the day of that we're going to renew the contract. It's really interesting. I won't go into some of the other finances here, but we talk about transparency, RFPs,
Thank you,
secret
Scott.
citing settlements. I'm going to finish here.
Thank you, Scott.
And
Scott, thank you.
we just going to approve a contract without any
Scott,
review.
Thank you.
I'm
Appreciate
going to
it.
finish. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, my name's Kyle Billiter.
Hi, Kyle.
I was here at the last meeting with my friend Terry. We were talking about an event that we set up with our group, Conscious Youth Solutions. That's conscious, like being aware of your surroundings, youth, like young people, solutions, like the answer to a problem. And we put on an event about the diverse emerging workforce in the city. And I just wanted to say I thought it was really well attended by a lot of leaders of the city. And I was just glad to see their enthusiasm in embracing the emerging diverse workforce. So, I mean, there's a long way to go with this, with the diversity in Sioux Falls, but I'm glad that I live in a city where a lot of places in the country, hate's become a little bit more fashionable, I guess, where you can dislike a group and you won't stick out in the crowd. So I like that I live in a city where we're trying to take the right steps forward. So thank you.
Kyle, thank you as well. Thanks for your leadership. Appreciate it. Welcome.
Tim Stanga. After the last meeting, I took it upon myself just to be able to go to the grocery store and department stores and around my neighborhood and everything, and just ask people what they thought about the event center and what we're thinking about doing on being able to look at the structure of the event center. And a lot of people realize that we're going to hire somebody to look at what's happening behind the siding again. And you know, the people of Sioux Falls, they're not stupid. They realize that this has been done already. And they realize that there's been a settlement that's been negotiated. And they do realize that between the mayor and some of the city employees and whatnot, realize that the structure of the event center is sound. Because if it wasn't, we'd have new siding. The siding would be taken off, it'd be redone. But people look at it as it's a waste of our money, it's a waste of the time, and there's a lot of other things that this money could be spent on. Even we can spend it on the homeless people if we wanted to. But people realize that this has been done once already. The mayor and the people that work with the mayor already know that this building is sound. And they're not saying that it's not sound out there. The only question they have is, why is the siding the way it is? Well, there's only two things. If they put siding on there, it's up to the standard of how the siding goes on the building. And if it's up to the standard on how it's put on, then that's what it is. But we just got to come out and be straight with the people and just tell them the truth. You know, we went with the siding. It didn't go on the way we thought it would. And yes, it doesn't look the prettiest, but this is something we have to live with. Being able to just come out and say that. A lot of people would probably just look at it and say, okay, we screwed up. We tried to go a little bit cheaper, but now we're going to come in and we're going to waste more money that we already know that the building is sound and is structurally sound. So I'm hoping that we really think about when we come up with this money, we want to do this looking at the siding again. It's just a waste of money. Because I believe the mayor and everybody is telling us that there's nothing going on behind that siding. And let's move on.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. Welcome. Go ahead, David.
All right. Greetings. My name is David Zokaitis, and I'm here to talk about. Please, thank you. All right. I'm here to talk about a topic that we would all prefer would disappear, and that is the topic of apparent corruption in Sioux Falls. Now, I'm saying apparent because, well, hopefully it's apparent and pretenses can be incorrect. And in general, I think the system has more problems than the players within. So let's see what kind of things I found out and maybe what we could hopefully do about it to fix the issues. And my target audience here is the citizens of Sioux Falls primarily, but you know, you're also citizens as councilors and as a mayor. So the biggest problem with politics in this country is expensive elections. Because when we have expensive elections, politicians have to work for their donors and not so much for the rest of us. So we need to fix that. And here in Sioux Falls, there was a recent change with councilor elections that helps to make elections more expensive, and of course that favors the wealthy candidates. And the change was introduced in kind of a sneaky way without public comment, and I would like to see that all taken back. Police here and elsewhere are happy to violate your rights. False arrest is not a problem. There was a woman who was arrested for letting a dog play in the snow. It's kind of crazy. The government in this town condones perjury. A police officer falsely charged me with something, and then the government wanted to file a warrant for my arrest because I wanted to file a charge of perjury against the police officer. Not good. The city also condones assault by police. There's this case that I've talked about before, but can't get any action on that. And if you're not safe from police, well, I think that's a cause for major concern. We have an issue here with police secrecy. There's a quote that a police officer told me, and you know, you can't threaten, well, you shouldn't be able to threaten people who are merely trying to observe your activities legally, but it happens here. Our criminal justice system at large has some major issues. I would call it broken. I've tried to testify for the defense and been thwarted quite thoroughly. The government has lost track of unpopular complaints. Yeah, we got problems. Our plea bargain system is designed to promote guilty pleas because people can't afford to hire effective lawyers. And if you just plead guilty because you can't afford your defense, well, you've lost your right to a good trial. Our jails have problems and promote crime. We've got a tremendous recidivism rate. Secrecy in government in general is a good way to promote corruption. Look at all those different forms of secrecy that we found here in Sioux Falls. We need to not do that. We have unconstitutional laws in Sioux Falls. There's one right there, a clause that I've quoted before, and nobody wants to fix it, I guess, because it's not important. Well, it should be, but it's not. TIFs can either be a great way to correct blight in a city, or they can be a sneaky way to funnel money to somebody who doesn't deserve it. There's some issues with a recent TIF, and there they are. The ambulance service has some problems too. Apparently that was done in secret. Secret in, problems out. The administration building, well, we wanted to have a petition, but that didn't go anywhere. I don't like that very much. So we need to fix this stuff. And I've recommended changes here and there along the way, and I think if I'm mayor, then we'll get a whole lot of stuff fixed. I'd like to see that happen. And as always, we should try to remember to see some beauty in the natural world. I usually end here, but you know, people make some cool stuff too. So just for variety, here's a little bit of cool stuff, and you have to check out my license plate.
Thank you, David.
And I'm done. Good evening, everybody.
Folks, anybody else want to entertain us? Very good.
Sierra Broussard, Sioux Falls. Okay, here we go for the police department here for body cameras. Since Chief Burns and them can't get the body camera situation right, there was a program set up by Rapid City, and Sioux Falls is under a program, and Rapid City got the cameras, but Matt Burns can't seem to get cameras onto the police department. So I thought it was interesting to look at this topic here because I am pushing for a new chief of police and to change the charter that the citizens will vote for their own chief of police after the election. So we need to put that on the ballot. There will be more to come against the police department as a whole with high crime areas and patrolmen and how many people's in a district. Pink did a song for advocacies and people that are struggling through city and state government, and it's called Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken. And in the lyrics, it says, you don't have enough rope to tie me down. You don't have enough tape to shut my mouth. You might throw stones that make me bleed, but I won't stop until we are free. So when she sang those lyrics, I always put it in a format of advocacy and advocate because we're always trying to fight for what's right in our city, state, and federal government here. If Rapid City can sit here and get this program together, and the program does storage for you on your computer up to 2 years if you do your research on it, then there's no reason why the police department can't get these body cameras. It's been since 2014. So hopefully by next year, we can get something accomplished here, and we can get these body cameras on these police officers. Like I told you, I'm going to be covering 3 weeks of public input next week on the crime. I've been out there on the crime. I've been tackling criminals because the police can't keep up with the criminals on the street, so I tackle them for them so they can be arrested. And more is to come in the next 3 weeks on why we need these body cameras and why we need to push Matt Burns to get them and stop playing this back and forth email, oh, it's the storage situation, or we're still experimenting with them. Rapid City, 5 years of having this to get to the program was way too long. I don't know what it took them for 5 years to do it. But Matt Burns, if you see on there, over there, he has implemented a program, so he got everything going. So the question is, I need council members to pressure him to ask why and the truth, honesty of why he's not getting those body cameras. Thank you so much.
Folks, anybody else want to engage the council? Welcome, sir.
Good evening. My name is Thor Barden. Thank you.
You're welcome.
First of all, I just want to say to everybody that's encouraged the mayor to, declare this the hunger and homelessness month. That's really awesome, and that's definitely something that needs to be done. On the topic, I actually wasn't planning on speaking this evening, but I thought I'd bring up something interesting. That I'm an individual who comes out of South Dakota's foster care system. As a result, every individual that comes out of the foster care system who is placed in a group home at the time that they are 18 becomes legally homeless. This is because, where do they go? They're no longer protected by the state as a ward, so they are therefore left to basically fend for themselves. Now, the state does have some measures, put in place to be able to help them with some minimal assistance, but for all intents and purposes, they become homeless. Now, we do have some wonderful programs here in the city. I was lucky enough to benefit from one of those programs, to which I was able to learn independent living skills and, things that I needed to know to be able to successfully live on my own as an adult. I had all the tools given to me. I don't have any kind of a drug background. I have no criminal history. I've worked hard for most of my life, been rarely unemployed. And at the age of 20, I became homeless living out of my car, working full-time, with all of these things given to me. And the reason why I bring this up is because it's very interesting. When we think about homelessness, we usually think, that person probably screwed up. I mean, let's face it, that's sometimes what we think. Because, how could they be in this situation? How could they be there? And then we're like, well, if they work hard enough, if they go after a job, they're definitely going to be able to find a place. They're going to get this income, and then they'll be fine. Okay? Well, the truth is that that's not actually true all the time. Because, what if they have families? And the reason why I bring this up, right now in Sioux Falls, we have thousands of available jobs. Okay? It's very conceivable that somebody with, various histories could go out and find a job, obtain one, and attain living. But right now, the average price of a one-bedroom apartment is over $700. Now, let's assume that I find a really good-paying job at over $12 an hour. Okay, so if you do the math, 40-hour work week, okay, I'm making some pretty decent money, but half of my month is going to go towards rent. Okay, and then if I have a family, I've got to pay for my kids' school supplies, and I've got to pay for all this other stuff, and the money doesn't really go very far. Now, mind you, again, I'm an individual. No drugs, no crimes, no, mental illness background or anything like that. Imagine how much harder this situation is for those people who are coming from those backgrounds. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because, there's not a defined solution for this. Obviously we need to look at bringing in primary industry. What I mean by that is businesses that are going to help start paying higher wages up top, so that way we start filtering and pulling the jobs up. Okay, sounds kind of absurd, but if we pull out all the people from the lower jobs, we start bringing more people in, and the wages come up. It's the council's responsibility to help the citizens of Sioux Falls and help those around us. The homeless are our neighbors, despite not having a physical place to go into. So let's make sure that we're actively working to make this a little bit easier for them to obtain that dream of just being able to have a roof over their head, being able to find these jobs that should be there, and being able to basically live the comfortable lives that we eventually find after our hard work and effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Thor. Appreciate it. Folks, anybody else? Thank you. Item 22.
Item 22 is a conditional use permit appeal, 7248-2017, 6,000 South Doral Avenue, Lot 1A of Lot M of Prairie Green Edition, City of Sioux Falls. The request for the conditional use permit is for the applicant to provide wood siding in lieu of brick and parking in the front yard for the proposed building in the O Office District. Approved at the October 4th, 2017 Planning Commission meeting, 7 yes, 1 no, without a condition.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor.
I need to recuse myself.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Rolfing is going to recuse himself. Jeff, welcome.
Thank you. Jeffrey Schmidt, representing planning staff on this and other items this evening. As was already mentioned by the city clerk, this is a all office zoned property already, and it has principal uses that are allowed here, as well as being allowed to be built as an office building at this site. There's currently a vacant parcel on the south side of this site. One of the standards for building an office on a site such as this is that it can build an office building as long as it meets these standards, which are that it has to have a pitched roof and a brick face on it if it's adjacent to single-family houses. If it can't meet those standards or chooses not to, then it has to come to a public hearing and basically have that public discussion to be compatible or consistent with adjacent neighbors. And that's where we're at today, is to discuss whether or not they're compatible with that, with the pitched roof and the building materials. Their proposal is to build an office building on this, as you can see, southwest corner, which is currently vacant, with an office building. And then as they move forward with their proposal and come in for building plans, they would have to meet all building codes and all engineering codes to meet all the issues that are already in ordinance set forth by City Council. So with that, I'll be able to answer any city's questions.
Jeffrey, thank you very much. Before I go to the council, is there anybody in the audience who wanted to speak to this item? Welcome.
Mayor Huser, councilors, my name is William Taylor. I'm a lawyer in Sioux Falls, and I represent the Durrell Neighborhood Group, who are the appellants from the Planning Commission decision here. First, I'd like to have the members of the Durrell Neighborhood Group stand up, please. So you see there is a very interested group involved in this. There's a technical issue here that we have to talk about. And my good friend Jeff Smith and I disagree slightly on what the issues are before the council. The council adopted the Shape Places Ordinance a couple of years ago. Quite a departure from the planning and zoning code that we had lived with for many decades. In the course of adopting the ordinance, you made a provision for conditional use permits. Everybody knows what a conditional use permit is. It's a use to be made by a person who owns a piece of property that does not specifically conform to the language of the ordinance for the zoning district. The council, when it adopted the ordinance that governs conditional use permits, said, you got to make an application for a conditional use permit. And there's some things you have to do to make an application for a conditional use permit. It's all described in two sections of the ordinance, 160.028 and 160.605. What the ordinance says is, with your application, you have to submit a set of plans. And the set of plans have to contain a rendering of what it is you intend to build on the property, so that the neighbors who are affected by the conditional use permit application can grasp the concept of what's going to be done and decide whether or not they want to come to the Planning Commission meeting and have input on whether or not the conditional use permit is granted. That doesn't seem too difficult a concept to grasp. I want a conditional use permit. Here's what I'm going to build. Look at this Planning Commission, look at this neighbors, and let's decide if this is appropriate. The Planning Commission, of course, and the council have the authority to say, okay, we'll let you build this, but we're going to attach conditions to it. Hence, it's called a conditional use permit. Now, here's what went on in front of the Planning Commission. The representative of GPAC, who is a lawyer, stood up in front of the Planning Commission and said, "We don't have designs. I've tried to make it clear to the neighbors that there are now 2 or 3 renderings out there of potential buildings. The first that were just black and white that I believe you saw were really just us trying to figure out what can fit on the lot and what type of building, whether or not this would be 1 story or 2. Even this, I hesitate to share because this is not our building. This was something that we put together simply to show what a building with this siding on it might look like. This is not our plan. This has nothing to do with it. First time I saw this was last week. That was the week prior to the October 4 Planning Commission meeting. So I want to make it clear that we're not saying this is the plan, the elevation, the look, even the mention of a pitched roof. You know, this is not it. So the Planning Commission decided that it had sufficient information to make a decision. Well, the ordinance requires that Mr. Riley and his client and employer, GPAC, submit plans sufficient for the neighbors to look at, for the Planning Commission to look at, for the council to look at, for me to look at. Didn't do that. I suggested that night in the Planning Commission meeting, listen, this neighborhood, Doral Court, been there about 20 years, populated by people, including Councilor Rolfing, who are, by and large, former community leaders, by and large, former business people.
Bill, my apologies. Are you the only person speaking on behalf of the neighbors?
Yes.
Okay, there's no one else going to speak?
No one else.
Okay. Council, I've got, we're already at 5 minutes. Can I let Bill continue on just a bit more as he is the only speaker on behalf of the, is that okay, Council Chair? Yes. Thank you. Bill, continue.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
The point of all this is that these good people in Doral Court who have lived there for many years are entitled to know what's going to go on that corner. GPAC made the election to solicit a conditional use permit. When GPAC solicited for a conditional use permit, the door opens. The ordinance does not say this is limited to the question of whether or not the siding is appropriate for the neighborhood. The ordinance says that you have to submit a plan, and consistent with that, the council and the Planning Commission have to make a decision that is key to the welfare of the community and the welfare of the city. That includes matters like traffic, which are very important to this group, matters like drainage, which are very important to this group, and matters like how this type O area, which is billed by the ordinance as a transition area, is in fact going to transition between residential and more intense commercial uses. I'll conclude by saying, first of all, you simply don't have the legal authority to grant a conditional use permit when there's no application on the table. Second, my clients are not necessarily opposed to this project. They just want to know what's going to happen there. You should send these people back home and tell them, we'll give you 1 of 2 choices. You can either defer the decision on the conditional use permit, complete your plans, submit your plans in the way the ordinance calls for, and let us come back and debate the subject, or number 2, the commission should deny the conditional use permit application. The council should deny the conditional use permit application. Downside of that for the applicants is they can't reapply for 6 months. So I would encourage the commission to say the application is incomplete, we can't make a decision, it's either deferred or denied. Thank you.
Bill, thank you as well. We appreciate it, and thanks for speaking on behalf of the neighborhood. We appreciate that too. Is there anyone who wanted to speak for this particular conditional use permit? Welcome.
Hi, Mayor, Council. My name is Brendan Riley. I'm the Managing Director and General Counsel at GPAC, 5900 South Doral. You know, I guess I'll agree with Jeff Schmidt. I think this is a pretty simple request. We, based on advice from the city staff and our consulting, our construction consultant, we applied for a conditional use permit. The simple question in preparing for building on this site is, what materials can we use? I know the ordinance right now says that for every so much square foot of siding, we need to have some brick, and it needs to face, you know, the neighbors. So we applied for a conditional use permit. We did apply. Our building, if you're familiar with the Callaway's property, we own the building straight adjacent to this property. It's all siding. It's a building that matches the Callaway's building, our building, the former McKinney-Olson building. It's all siding. So we're simply requesting compatibility with our existing building with the office development there to request use for just siding. Now, we applied for a conditional use permit. The neighbors had some concerns about our conditional use permit, so we deferred for a month on the city planning, for the planning commission, held a neighborhood meeting at the request of the neighbors and at the suggestion of the planning commission and city planning. We held a neighborhood meeting. Neighbors came, we spent 90 minutes at our office, talked about the siding. It appeared from the meeting and appeared from talking with Mr. Taylor after that they generally approve of the look of the building, the siding being compatible with our existing building. So we went to the planning commission, received a 7-to-1 vote. Now the neighbors' complaints, whether it's technical or whether it's drainage or parking, we know as the building owners that when it comes time to pull a planning or a building permit, we're going to have a drainage plan approved by the city. We're going to have parking approved by the city. We know that. But it's not at that point yet. What we're trying to figure out is, what are we planning for? The look of the building, what the conditional use requires is that we figure out, can we use just siding or brick? From that, we know what we need to plan for. But we all know, you know, I know, everybody knows that we aren't going to have this built without an approved drainage plan by the city and approved parking. I mean, even right now, the city went, counted the parking. I saw numerous emails from the neighbors about this project. Somehow we've become public enemy number one. You purposely haven't heard from me because I think it is a pretty simple, straightforward request, not because we're disinterested, because we figured it's pretty straightforward. So straightforward that if the neighbors don't trust that we could get this right with a building permit, I offered to Mr. Taylor that if they want to design, you know, if they want to hire engineers and design this and design a drainage plan that the city will approve, we'll be happy to look for it as long as it works. You know, I'm not a city engineer. I'm not a public engineer. I don't know where the drain is going to go, but I know if I come for a building permit, I'm going to have a drainage plan that's approved by the city. So we're not here to pull a building permit. What we're here is to figure out, what are we planning for? The conditional use requires that we ask, can we build this building with just siding? When the time comes to build it, can we use siding, or does it require some brick? I guess the planning staff has told us, and we already know, it's already zoned office. If we get approval, okay, now we know we're planning for a building that just has siding. If we're denied, now we're planning for a building that has brick. It doesn't change the fact that we still have to get a drainage plan, have to get approved parking. We know that already. So I'm welcoming any questions, but it really does boil down to siding versus brick. That's all we're asking for tonight.
Brendan, thank you. Appreciate it. Folks, did anybody else want to engage the council on this topic? Councilors.
Councilor Neitzer wants to go first.
Councilor Neitzer, I guess so.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for deferring. So the first thing I better do is disclosures. I watched the Planning Commission video a couple times, and I did go out to the site on Sunday, drove around and got out. So there's my disclosures. I'm going to keep this very simple and not overcomplicate it. The conditional use permit standard says where a conditional use permit is required for approval, the following will be considered. The substitution of the permitted special use standard should perform at the same or higher level than for brick or wood siding, pitched roof, or parking in the front yard when adjacent to DD and AD forms. Blah, 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 blah. And then it says, through methods such as orientation, topography, higher level of aesthetics or barriers that are used to create comparable performance. And it was stated that this is really about the siding, and that's really what this is about besides the parking. So to me, I can't determine if the plan performs at a higher level or the same level than the ordinance requires without even an elevation. I don't have anything. So to me, this is very simple. We just defer it and say, bring us in an elevation. Let's see what you propose to do, and then we can make a determination. Until then, it's really incomplete.
Councilor Starr?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that's why I usually defer to Councilor Neitzer to take something complicated and make it a little bit simpler, but he's exactly right that I think the applicant's right as well, that we understand that you will have drainage plans, you'll have parking, when you're ready to pull permits. This just boils down to whether siding or brick or what our current ordinance calls for. And the applicant didn't give us anything to tell us why siding in his mind is, I'm assuming it's less expensive and it would save them money. They would build a nice looking office building. I have no doubt of that. But the bottom line with what we've heard tonight and going by that is we don't have anything to compare it to. We don't have the simple elevations. We don't have the other process. I know for the neighbors it gets a little confusing, and I know parking is always, and traffic and all of the other studies, and I agree with the applicant in that process that we need to look at those, and those will be taken. Thank you. I'm trying to see where this came from all of a sudden. So was this something that you had, Jeff? Would you like to address it then before I'll back off. I'm done.
Councilor Starr, thank you. Jeff, I don't know where this came from, but you probably should address it. Why you didn't bring it up earlier, I don't understand. Jeff, why don't you address this?
It was the slide right after this one. So I had stopped at the site plan because we were talking about the site plan. And then when Greg just brought up that he wants to see an elevation, then I brought in the elevations.
First time I've seen it. Go ahead, Jeff. Why don't you explain this?
Sure. The site plan was what we were reviewing, and based upon the site plan, it came down to whether or not they want to have wood siding or bricks. And this is the proposal that they had brought to Planning Commission and presented. And then really from the presentation that Mr. Taylor and Mr. Riley already said is they haven't agreed on this. This is not necessarily what they're going to build or not build. This is the plan that they submitted to us as the conditional use plan.
Okay.
So this is a rendering that they gave us. This isn't necessarily what they're going to build. Everybody's agreeing to that. This is something that they showed us.
Okay.
This isn't necessarily what they're going to build. This is what they showed us as the conditional use plan.
Okay.
And this is a rendering of the building. And so just at the end, you were talking about, well, we've never seen a rendering. This is a rendering of a wood-sided building. In further detail, it's similar to other wood-sided buildings in the area, but it doesn't say that they're going to build wood siding or not. Getting back to Mr. Taylor's issue, if I was asked, a conditional use plan per standards has to have the name of the project, a scale and north arrow, the existing and proposed buildings, the dimensions, the total square footage, the distance from the property lines, the dimensions and the platted property lines, the names and locations of the adjacent streets, the locations and dimensions of the parking lots, and that's what needs to be on a site plan. We don't necessarily look at this, so I stopped at the site plan because that was the issue that we were addressing. And the neighbors can't be guaranteed that, I mean, are they going to have that's the issue. Are they going to do a pitch roof like that with brown? We don't know that.
Very good. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Councilor Staley.
As I visited with the city attorney about this, because as many of you may know, this is what we call quasi-judicial. So we're supposed to be revealing, disclosing anything that we had gotten or seen from citizens, heard from citizens that could possibly influence our decision. This was in my mailbox this morning, so I wanted just to share this because I think it is an important piece of information, even though it's not dealing with the siting. But this Mardella Anderson left this, and enclosed are the pictures of Durrell Court neighborhood. During flooding, our basement at 115 West Durrell Court has been flooded 3 times in the last 5 years. Our concern with the proposed GPAC building is that the flooding problem will increase. Their elevation is about 10 feet higher than our yards. Drainage is an urgent issue. Any help is appreciated. Now, she also enclosed some pictures, and we see this is apparently her backyard. It says water behind must be their backyard, 1 block from the proposed building. But then also she included the Argus Leader front page story from August 22nd, 2017. Rain floods out several streets in the neighborhood. And so, you know, I'm empathetic towards her situation, and of course adding to that by any more concrete being built in the area. So as I acknowledge that this is not the issue necessarily at hand, I just wanted to disclose that that is absolutely a concern. Glad you're talking about drainage studies and moving forward with this, because you know, we don't want to put a hardship on, make someone's benefit become someone else's hardship.
Councilor Muck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too have disclosures. The email that it's on SIRE, as all of the other material is, that we've all received. I am personal friends with some of the neighbors and have been out to the location many times. I think there are a couple of issues here, and I think that the neighborhood is right in their thoughts about what's going to be the larger impact for their neighborhood if this particular project goes ahead, and I can't discount their concerns about drainage and those sorts of things. We know, we're kind of on the inside now. We know that those drainage plans have to come through, like Mr. Riley said. I think, though, that the part of the issue for me is that idea that this neighborhood is sort of endangered right now, that they are, I don't know if they were, I don't want to say it, but was it planned incorrectly? Is it not? I mean, it doesn't seem to be handling the impact of the traffic that's there now, and it doesn't seem to be handling the impact of the water that's there now. And so, to me, that's a separate issue that we as a city council maybe need to advocate for that neighborhood in terms of moving forward. That certainly if GPAC builds this building, they're going to meet certain requirements to take care of the drainage issues that they may or may not add to the neighborhood, but they aren't going to necessarily fix things that are already there. So that would be my 1-2 question, or my statement. I have a question for Mr. Schmidt, and then a statement to say about something that Councilor Neitzer said earlier. Mr. Schmidt, I would just ask, in terms of the way that I read the agenda item today was if we look at that parking lot that faces, you know, where the drawing of the building is, the proposed building is in that corner. It looks like if we deny the conditional use permit, that they wouldn't be required to have parking in their front yard. Is that correct? And that would, to me, the front yard in my mind is the corner of 69th and the building, right?
They have 2 front yards on a multiple face streets property on Durrell and 69th Street. That's 2 front yards. So they have a 15-foot setback on both of those streets and a 10-foot buffer yard on both of those. So at that point, could they encroach in there and build into those setbacks with the parking? That's the request. Or can they basically build along the front yards but be set back from them? Our comprehensive plan and zoning ordinance, here's where one of those things gets interesting, because our request is that we would rather have the buildings closer to the residential versus the parking closer to the residential. What's the better of the two? Do you put the building in the front yard and the parking in the back next to residential? It's really better to have the building in the back and the parking in the front along the street where the impacts are already. So the request is, can we build into the front yard with the parking areas? And so that's what you're seeing there that Jason's highlighted on 69th Street.
Right, and if we denied the conditional use permit,
they would set back.
They don't have to do that. They don't have to put that parking there.
Correct.
Right. And then my other comment then to the group would be that I agree with Councillor Neitzert's insinuation a few minutes ago that this needs to be deferred, and I'm happy to make that motion at the appropriate time.
Councillor Buck, would you want to make that motion?
I would make that motion, Mr. Mayor. I would move that we defer this to December 5th, and that we that part of our deferral be that the neighbors be considered neighbors, and that the corporation, the company that's planning this, be neighbors as well, and that we come to some kind of agreement on this, that this not be something that we shouldn't have to iron this out. This is a neighborhood issue as much as anything, and I'd like to see them iron it out. That's my motion. Sorry.
Councillor Buck will simplify that. She's going to defer
December
this to December 5th. Anything she said after that, disregard. Will you second that, Councillor?
I will. I'll second that.
There's a second. Now some discussion. Now we can bring that in.
And my comment then would be, the reason we want to defer this, the reason that I want to defer this is that I'm hearing that we're not being very good neighbors. And I don't believe that to be true. I believe that these are all really good people on both sides of this issue. And I believe that you all need to sit in a room and figure this out. And don't bring it to us without some sort of agreement. And I would encourage anyone that's involved with something like this, come to an agreement before you come to us. We're not here to be your judge and jury. Let's figure this out as good neighbors in the community of Sioux Falls, and so that's my reason.
Mr. Mayor, I have a couple.
Yes, Councillor.
Thank you. I have
Vice
a couple
Chair.
questions and disclosures as well. I know both people, both sides. I took a call from Paul Reynolds, who is the contractor on this morning, and just talked through some perspective on his side as well as knowing some folks on the other side, and took some phone calls there. My question that I have, looking at this map, we're talking about traffic. I'm not disregarding what has already been said, but I'm needing to visualize some of this. There is already a turn off of Doral into this development.
Correct.
Does that have to stay there? Is that something that can be removed and made into green space, or can you enter in off of 69th or, kind of come around the long way? My reasoning behind asking if that little intake, the other one off of Doral, if you can put an extra, if that could be removed, you're not going to have the impact to the neighbors. They're not going to have the constant traffic in and out for those couple of houses on the end there for West Doral. No, further up, sorry, up a little bit.
But Jason's highlighting that there's already a right-in, right-out on 69th Street with the median.
Right, but what I'm talking about is on that Doral, if you go up a little bit more, so you're not going into the property, that one, yes, that one. If that would mitigate a lot of the traffic in the neighborhood there. I don't know if that's an option or not, I'm just bringing that up. But my other actual question is I understand there's going to be the motion's made to defer it, but it's already zoned office. So if we were to just say nope and deny it, what can they do? They can go ahead and build this already and have brick, correct?
Correct. And they could come in, pull a building permit
tomorrow,
and they'll get their access where it's at now, and they'll do the drainage study, and they will build an office building. Correct.
Right. So the only reason why it's here is because they chose to have it be uniform with their other building, which I can appreciate that they want it to all look the same, whatever. But regardless, they can still build a building.
If you defer it or deny it or approve it, they can still decide to just go ahead and build it with brick, or they wait and see if they get something worked out with siding.
I just needed to wrap my mind around that, because even if it is denied, they can build it.
The comment there, because it seems petty on our planning standpoint, why did we get to this point? Mr. Taylor brought up things had changed since 1983. And back in 1983 and before, all offices were conditional uses. And then we would stand up here and say, this needs to be harmonious with the neighborhood. And you would say, what does that mean? And we would say, it needs to have a pitched roof and look like the same as the other buildings. So we made it to basically say that. We got rid of harmonious and said, it needs to have the same building materials as what's in the neighborhood. That was the language. Now if it's the same building materials, they should be able to build and we're standing up here having the discussion.
So my other last question I have is, can the applicant withdraw this? Say we defer it to December 5th. Can they choose to withdraw it and then move ahead with their business plan and build it?
They could do both. They could defer and wait, or they could pull a building permit. They could do either one. They have all those options and choices.
Okay.
If that's clear.
That is clear. It's a little confusing where you can already do it, but we're not, and then we've got issues, and so I understand that. So thank you for clearing that for me. And I also heard the statement made, sit down and figure this out. I think that we as a council need to maybe give some more direction if that's what we're asking them to do, is what do we want them to figure out? What are their clear expectations? So when the two attorneys sit down in the same room, they know what they're trying to solve, I guess, because I'm not certain of that, and I just want to make sure you all leave here tonight with a direction in which you're supposed to go for that reason. So that's...
Council Chair.
Thank you, and I just need to make a few disclosures, and I'll try to keep it as quickly as possible, and that is that I did receive at least 2 phone calls from neighbors of this particular neighborhood, and they presented much of the same information that has been presented this evening, with concerns about water, concerns about the parking. I think one of the things that was not mentioned was concern about snow removal, which was related to the parking and plows having to go around and things of that nature. I did drive the neighborhood on 2 different occasions, one this afternoon, and beyond that, I guess that's about as much as I can disclose. Just to respond very quickly to Councilor Erickson's comment, I'm not certain that I would be in a position to give them the direction, because I think it's the folks out here that know best what kind of direction they need to give to the applicant in this particular case. So I still agree with Councilor Urbanbach, Councilor Neitzert, that this is something they need to sit down and work out. And I'd much rather see this deferred versus voted on one way or the other.
A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
I'd like a clarification. Are we voting on the deferral?
Yes.
Voting on
Okay,
deferral.
thank you very much. Yes.
Neitzert?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 23.
Item 23 is a conditional use permit appeal, 7432, 2017. 1029 South Cleveland Avenue, Lots 6 through 8, Block 16, Gibbonese RR Edition, City of Sioux Falls. The request for the conditional use permit is for the applicant to allow on-sale alcohol and casino within 500 feet of a sensitive use in the C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar District, approved at the October 4th, 2017 Planning Commission meeting, 7 yes, 1 no, with a condition for this applicant and owner only.
Jeffrey?
Okay. Thank you. Similar item, conditional use appeal. It went to Planning Commission. This is a core neighborhood. It's at 18th and Cleveland Avenue. You can see on the zoning map, it's zoned commercial C2 with an existing parcel and building on it. This is Gary Cohen's Amico, and to the south you have a dry cleaners, and to the north you have an existing grocery store. To the east, you have single-family homes. If this was in a commercial area around commercial, you would be able to get a building permit. They would open, you would come in for licensing. There would be no public hearings. Our new conditional standards for shaped places are if you're adjacent to or within single-family neighborhoods, you have to have a conditional use to address these issues. Our conditional use standards are that they have to have the appropriate parking spaces, because that's one of the things that was always raised previously, that the lighting had to be addressed for security and safety issues, that there needs to be soundproofing to address any noise and vibrations, and that they have to have a security management plan to address the crime issues. With that, Planning Commission brought it forward and voted on it. And then the neighbors raised concerns at the Planning Commission, and they appealed it to this body.
Jeffrey, thank you. Folks, again, welcome. Good to have you here. Is there anybody who wanted to speak to this particular item tonight? Welcome.
Well, the last time I bought this, and I don't know if you all got to see it or not, but this is the area we're talking about.
And ma'am, your name, please.
Oh, sorry, Edie Smorosky.
Thanks, Edie.
And this is where I grew up. This is where I raised my children. We bought in this area. And it's a wonderful little area. It's a utopia to me. And I never see all the other stuff that may be going on in this area, but in my area and my cul-de-sac and everything, it's beautiful and I love it. And I just wanted to point out, if you didn't see this chart, this is the area we're talking about. This is not a business district by any stretch of the means. This is a small little laundromat on a corner. And then across the street is the gas station hooked to a family grocery store that does not want this casino. We want to remind you that this is surrounded by housing. And across the street from where the casino will be is physically challenged housing. And right outside the door of this casino is the school bus stop. And across the street is the city bus stop. Every night we hear about all the robberies taking place at casinos. We do not need to bring this element to our neighborhood, where children hang out and walk to the store. This is a remote area. This is not a busy street like 10th Street or where all the other casinos are. This is a little city neighborhood. I do not want this area to be easy pickings for anybody with criminal intent. Why is this even being considered? This is the neighbors who have been patronizing his gas station for years. And this is how he pays us back. He doesn't even live in this neighborhood. I'm sure that this little innocent casino, just serving wine until 10 o'clock at night out of long stem little glasses, once he gets his foot in the door, it will soon become like all other casinos, serving liquor until the wee hours in the morning. If this casino and liquor license are voted in, you're taking this responsibility for this neighborhood. I don't know if we will be able to be present for the vote. I think we will be. I hope that this issue is in your interest to listen to us. And really, who's this? Please, for the little bit of revenue that might bring into this casino to this city, you're going to do this to all these neighbors that have lived there all their lives, like me and a bunch of others, and some that can't make it here tonight. I mean, this is to us, we're counting on all of you. We're counting on you. Save our neighborhood. Gary Cohn does not live in that neighborhood. He does not need to put a casino in his gas station, for God's sakes. That's ridiculous. I mean, all right, thank you very much. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Edie. Folks, anybody else? Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Katie Jelsma. I live at 1000 South Blaine, pretty much directly behind the gas station and proposed casino. My father is Bob Jelsma. He owns Andy's Affiliated Foods, the grocery store that's immediately adjacent to the proposed casino. Speaking on behalf of my father tonight, he is concerned about parking issues. Currently, it does not feel like there's ample parking. So his major concern is what kind of overflow parking will go into his parking lot. And the way it's set up, the overflow parking would be his prime front row parking. Other concerns he has would be any theft and vandalism. Typically, when you put alcohol and gambling together, you're kind of mixing bad medicine and you're just asking for trouble with that. He also owns housing residential property in the area. So his other concern would be what are the property values going to be when you have a casino put into that area. As a resident of this neighborhood, I want to talk about my own safety. The back alley that goes behind the grocery store and the gas station shoots out directly into my garage and my neighbor's garage. We are both RNs. I take a lot of call during the night, days, weekends, holidays, you name it, as does she. So what does that mean for two young women being out at night when there's potential alcohol users and abusers? We have had to call the police to come and get people out of that alley in the past without a casino or alcohol in that area. I also have a 19-month-old daughter. I am a single mom. We play a lot in the backyard. We're alone in the backyard. It's not completely fenced in. Again, it shoots out right from that alley, so there is that potential concern for safety with gambling and alcohol use. Previously, I was told you couldn't draw any connection between alcohol use and gambling. Being a doctorate student, I put on my little thinking cap, did some pretty basic research. I hope you all got my letter, too, that I wrote. There's a strong connection between alcohol use and gambling, and typically those who gamble are alcohol abusers, not just users. So a very strong correlation there, which needs to be addressed as well. Our other main concern is that I had a letter that was sent out, and I pulled police call logs from the last 30 days from the immediate walking area from Gary Cohn's proposed casino. Every single day there was at least one call, if not 3 or more calls that originated right in that area. So clearly this is an area that already has a lot of troubles and concerns. So why put this casino there and bring in more potential problems? And I just want to close by saying that in the past, Gary has proposed this casino, and it was turned down. It was denied. So why do we want to approve it again in the future here? Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Katie.
Yeah.
Folks, anybody else? Welcome.
Sierra Broussard, Sioux Falls. I was just in that neighborhood, and Booze Boys got robbed last week. They came in with some sunglasses and took some booze. So I know the neighborhood. I have a list because some of them is on the crime-free housing here, and we have code violations on top of that. This is a high-crime area neighborhood, okay? It don't matter if you have a gas station that they're going to serve booze. They're going to sit outside and drink it. If we put a casino in there, we're just going to have this neighborhood has been problematic, just like Oakview neighborhood. I have the police in that area to try to problem solve all the crimes and the graffiti and everything that goes on in this neighborhood. It's no different than the central side or the east side. If the law states that you can go and put a casino in there, why don't you? It comes to the fact that we need the police presence, we need people to call the police, and we need to lower the crime in that area. The only reason why we have so much crime in that area is people need to come forward in that neighborhood, call the police, and willing to testify in the court system. I've been in that neighborhood from 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. in that neighborhood. I understand that it might be scary. I put my life in danger every day. I understand that, but if you want your neighborhood to be up to par, then the rental properties that are out there, and I'm not going to name them, needs to come up to date with code enforcement, because if you don't have your property up to date, that rises your high crime. Andy's grocery store, make sure that they don't take those beers and drink them outside like they do at Andy's grocery store. I have seen that done there. So picking on this guy to put a casino out here, I don't think will cause more of a problem, because this is already a high crime area here. Okay, so we have fights, we have robberies that just occurred, we have prostitution behind there. There's more I can add to it. So if council members would like to go back there and look at the problems at 9 o'clock until 2 a.m. on a Thursday to Sunday, go ahead and do it. But I'm living proof. I'm out there. That is one of the high crime areas I'm trying to get the police involved in to clean it up. But like the police said, we also need the citizens to come forward and help too. I can't be out on the streets 24/7 calling the police because there's a fight out here and they're fist fighting on the street corner and nobody's calling the police in this neighborhood. And that's all I have to say about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sierra. Welcome.
Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council, my name is Jerry Scott, lifetime Sioux Falls resident, 2-term Vietnam vet, own a house on Claudette right around from Gary's establishment. I've known him for about 30 years. He runs clean, quiet businesses. He spends many hours there. He's also a veteran. I know a little bit about casinos. It's a badge of honor. I'm raising 2 grandchildren. Granddaughters, 11 and 14 now. It's a challenge. I've worked in casinos part-time for about 8 years to support them. I know that the tenant in the casinos control the amount of alcohol. We do not overserve. I know you have to be 21 to come into a casino. You have to have a valid ID with a picture. We can eject people from the casino if there's a problem. He'd be unique in being open from 7 in the morning to 10 at night. Most casinos in Sioux Falls are open till 2. If I want to walk down to the casino, play the games, and have a couple beverages, it doesn't make me a criminal. I think he'd have a good handle on it, and I don't think it'd be a problem for the neighborhood. If the people don't want casinos, we can have a state income tax. A casino is a voluntary tax. I don't have to pay it, but I like to do it once in a while. That's what I got to say. Thank you.
Mr. Scott, thank you very much, and thank you for your service. We appreciate it. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Lila Johnson. I live at 2800 East 18th Street, just across the street from Gary's. And I just want to respond to a couple of things I've heard here. I've lived there for almost 40 years, and I'm sure there's illegal things that have gone on there. But unless I'm really naive, I don't see it happening myself. I don't see the drug deals going on or the prostitution or anything like that. I feel perfectly safe in my neighborhood, but I'd like to keep it that way. It's apparently a sensitive area should make a difference with whether or not a casino can be had there. And for many, many, many blocks, from Cliff Avenue to Sycamore, is primarily residential area. There's just those businesses on the corner, several schools, several daycares, strictly residential. And I would, I don't know, I've been really proud of the way Sioux Falls has addressed blighted areas, because I think you do a really good job of it. But I would really, really hate to see contribution to the demise of my neighborhood. So,
thank you, Lila. Appreciate it. Welcome.
Scott Ersman, Sioux Falls. I think some people are kind of confused about who's a criminal and who's not a criminal. Let's just face it. People who gamble are not criminals. People who drink are not criminals. People who own a casino are not criminals. People who rob casinos are criminals. Casinos get robbed constantly in this town. Put a casino in a residential neighborhood and it will get robbed. There's two kinds of, I always tell people, two kinds of casinos in Sioux Falls. Ones that have been robbed and ones that are going to be robbed. I used to live next door to a casino, robbed repeatedly. I'd say twice a month. One day, it was a Saturday afternoon. It was about 1 o'clock. Cop come walking up to my driveway asking me if I saw anybody run by. The casino was robbed at 1 o'clock on a Saturday. Well, it closed. A bar moved in there. Guess what? The bar serves alcohol. You know how many times they've been robbed since they've been there in the 2 years they've been there? I believe 0. They've never told me that. I've never seen cops there. They can let concerts go a little long sometimes, so the police have shown up for that. But there's never been a robbery. Why? Because it's not a casino. Putting a casino in a residential neighborhood makes no sense. And I know that neighborhood. I've been by it several times. I used to live very close to it. It makes no sense at all. On top of that, Mr. Cohn has done very well. He's got a laundromat. He's got a gas station. He doesn't need the extra revenue. This isn't bailing somebody out here because he's destitute. He needs this casino. He doesn't need it. It's going to cause more crime. And the more that this council can do to have less gambling and video lottery casinos is less crime. You know, some people would argue that video lottery is great for our state because it funds all kinds of things. I don't think it pays for itself. I think the amount of crime we get from video lottery costs taxpayers way more than what we get back out of it. I highly suggest that Remember, this isn't about people who are gambling. It isn't about people who drink. It is not about people who own casinos. This is about the people who rob them. And they don't really care who they hurt when they do it. They might shoot somebody. They might run through somebody's yard and wreck something. They might take somebody hostage. Who knows? But think about this. This is a very, very, very easy decision. We don't need a casino in a well-established residential neighborhood.
Thank you, folks. The folks against the conditional use permit, I think, have done an excellent job going through a number of items. I'm not going to go through all of them now. Many times they have been repeated, which is fair. But is there anybody who wanted to speak on behalf of this conditional use permit? If not, I'm going to go to the council. Come forward.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, John Pattison. I guess you might call me the grandfather of the neighborhood. Most of these folks back here probably don't even know who I am, but I've lived in this neighborhood since before the Interstate 229 was put in, so I have been there for a long time. You know, when they put the interstate through down there, we thought that was terrible. That was the worst thing that could ever happen to our neighborhood. Well, you know what? We lived through it, and it didn't turn out too bad after all. They built a grocery store up there. We didn't think that was a good idea. You know what? It turned out to be not a bad idea after all. Gas station up there, it's not a bad idea. 6 blocks down the street, we've got a liquor store. You know what? It sits there day after day after day and does its thing. No big problem. Now, Gary Cohn wants to put in a little casino there in his gas station. He's run a very good business there for a number of years. There's a laundromat right across the street with a lot of traffic in and out, car traffic going in and out, crossing the sidewalks. The grocery store there has got a driveway that comes in, crosses the sidewalk, cars park right in front of the store. When they back out, they have to back in reverse across the sidewalk again, which causes more of a problem than what we're going to have to worry about in a casino getting robbed. You know, there's stores anywhere in town that can be robbed. It doesn't make any difference if it's a casino, whether it's a bar, whether it's a city council meeting, it can be robbed. And I don't see that just by having these machines there with a 10 o'clock closing time and an owner with the integrity that Mr. and Mrs. Cohn have, and the fact that they've run businesses in this town for many, many years, and I've known them for over 35 years, I don't see that they're going to run any kind of a business that's going to be detrimental to anybody in the community. And if they run the business the way Gary says they will run it, folks, and knowing he and his wife, you can take that to the bank.
Thanks, John. Anybody else? Welcome. This is for the conditional use permit. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Thomas Thompson. My wife and I own a video lottery company here in Sioux Falls, and we own 6 casinos. And I got to be truthful, listening to all these people, I kind of fear for my life. So I'm ready to hang the for sale sign up. So, but I do appreciate your efforts that you folks put forth. I do feel you're in a no-win situation. But again, most of the casinos are located back to back in a neighborhood. And I have met Gary Cohn. He is a very nice guy, and I hope you approve his video lottery license. And should you want to get in the casino business, I'm scared. Give me a call. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Thank you. Folks, anybody else? Welcome.
Thank you for your time. My name's Sean Kunkel. I happen to own the Hilltop Laundromat, which is right across the street from Gary's gas station and proposed casino. And I did want to say that I am sympathetic to the neighbors that raise their concerns. When I heard that Gary was going to open a casino, being the good neighbor that he's been to me, I just went over and asked him about it, and he told me a little bit about it, and I immediately became comfortable with the fact that he was going to or had the desire to do that. As a business owner, I think any business owner would like to find a way to generate a little bit more revenue for their business and for their livelihood. And Gary, people talk about Gary living in a different neighborhood. Gary's been a part of that neighborhood for a long time, and he's been a very positive influence in that neighborhood, and he's been a great neighbor to me and to a lot of the people that live in that surrounding area. And by remaining open for the hours that he is and closing as early he is, I think that says a lot for his concerns for the neighborhood. But I also know that he's not going to allow anything to go on there and allow anyone in that neighborhood to get harmed. My concerns is having an unattended laundromat right across the street. Would people be going in and out of there? But Gary has looked out for my business more than I could ever thank him for. And I just want to say that I don't have a problem with that going in. I do understand concerns of the neighbors, but Gary's always been a person that if he says he's going to take care of something, he does, and I do think that that is something that could fit into that neighborhood and not cause a great deal of trouble. Thank you for your time.
John, thank you. Folks, I'm gonna pause at this point unless, is Mr. Cohn here? Does he want to speak? Come forward, sir. Then we're done.
Hi, I'm Gary Cohn. My wife and I reside at 1310 West 5th in Sioux Falls. We've been in business in Sioux Falls for 44 years. Our second home is the gas station at 1027 South Cleveland. We've been there for 37 years. We've been there to provide a service for customers and for the people in the neighborhood, and that's all we intend to do. We put out a ballot and asked people if they were opposed to a video lottery there, and we have 275 people that signed the ballot that they were not opposed. And there isn't a week that doesn't go by that someone doesn't say, how come you don't have video lottery there? So what our intent is to, if it all passes, and we hope it does, is to give this service to the customers in the neighborhoods that are asking for it. We've been, like I say, in the service business for over 44 years, and we're there to give them the same service. That's all we ask for.
Ms. Cohn, thank you as well. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Folks, it's been very, very thorough discussion, both pro and con. I honestly don't know if there's going to be anything more that can be added. I'm sure the council will find a way to make that happen. But I'm going to move to the council right now, okay? And then they will make a decision. Councilor Staley.
Jeff, just an observation, and I will disclose that I drive past this neighborhood constantly because I go to church north of there. But I was thinking about it today as I drove past, and I'm looking at the residential layout. And you stated, Jeff, that this was had residential areas to the east. But in fact, it does have residential areas to the west as well, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, in fact, residential areas on the west very close to the proposed business.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Councilor Neitzer.
Thank you. So my first thing is disclosures. I watched the Planning Commission video. I went out to the area on Sunday. I got out. I walked around. As I've been thinking about this, there's a couple of things I've boiled it down to. As far as other commercial, there is other commercial, but they're both C1. That's the lightest commercial there is. It's kind of a neighborhood service sort of store, that being the grocery store and the laundromat. In the materials that were sent from the applicant, there was a list of other casinos. The only difference with most of those is they are close to residential, yes, but they're typically fronting on major commercial corridors. I guess, and I do appreciate the concessions that the applicant had made with the closing time and some of those other things. I'm kind of looking at the catch-all quote in the ordinance. In all cases, the impact of proposed use on the adjacent properties will be a major consideration. And really, we're talking about an on-sale alcohol establishment. We all know it's going to be, it's going to be lottery, but they have to get the on-sale first, and the lottery would actually come up later tonight. So I'm just looking at that, and I guess what I'm really struggling with is, in an area that's just kind of a sea of residential to me, is on-sale alcohol in any form appropriate there? It's kind of thinking about, should there be a statement about in our community where we're going to locate on-sale alcohol, just in general, just with the impacts it would have on neighborhood character and those sorts of things. So that's I guess what I'm struggling about. I think some of the casino things, are having spent a lot of time going and checking them out for other ordinances we were working on. I don't think a lot of the fears would really come to fruition, but that's really the struggle. It's just a neighborhood to me, and it just doesn't feel right putting the on-sale alcohol right in the midst of it. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Councilor Selberg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would disclose, like everybody else, I've received numerous messages on this topic and driven by the area a number of times, including today. I think you'd normally find me to be pretty much pro-business and all for seeing businesses and entrepreneurs expand whatever their business might be. Today I took a good look again, kind of, when you stand and look from east to west and you look at those corners and there's businesses there, and it looks like a decent setup with commercial, with the businesses that occupy the corners, and you think, well, it seems feasible. But where I kind of have a problem is then you'd walk around the corner and you look from south to north and you see where this casino is going to be, and then you look 10 feet left and there's a house. And that's probably the hardest line that I'm having with this, is that, where do you draw the line on something like this if we're going to start approving things this close to residential? And like I said, I mean, things that come along with a casino, I'm not here to spread fear and who knows what could happen there, but I would imagine you'll have some people standing outside smoking on occasion. You might have things that come along with owning an alcohol establishment that aren't necessarily safe, and I know I certainly wouldn't want that 8 feet from my house. I'm sure Mr. Cohen is a good man. He's obviously a good businessman. It's people like that that have built this city, so this is a tough one for me, but after kind of looking at it from all angles and looking at that particular aspect of it, that's probably going to be why it's hard for me to approve this. But, yeah, that's all I have on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Council Chair Kiley.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I need to disclose that I have had several conversations with people from the neighborhood, at least 8 conversations, 3 of which have been here this evening. And actually, they could not tell me anything that I did not already know, because I raised my family there for 20 years. I just grew up, I raised my kids on Harrington Avenue, just a block and a half to the northeast. And the other thing is, the neighborhood has not changed a bit since I moved out 20 years ago. It's still Andy's affiliated foods. It's the gas station, although, Gary, you've done a nice job with the new gas station. And it's the laundromat, which was Hilltop Drug prior to that. So I have quite a history with this area, and I do know that it hasn't changed one iota since that time. And Councilor Selberg is absolutely right. I mean, the part that's most difficult for me is when you look to the west from this particular property, there is a residence there just a matter of feet away. In fact, they have a shared driveway practically. It's already been an issue in terms of parking and people parking in this individual's driveway, restricting their ability to come and to go. There will be issues with people standing outside smoking, because that's not going to be allowed indoors. And it was denied before based on suitable location. And quite frankly, I'm going to vote no on this evening based on suitable location.
Council, would anybody want to make a motion before we continue the dialogue?
Before, Mr. Mayor, I still have a disclosure I need to get in.
We'll have more dialogue, I swear. I guarantee it. Anybody just want to make a motion one way or the other?
I would move to approve.
Been a motion to approve. There has been
Second,
moved.
Starr.
Councilor Starr, thank you. Good job. Councilor Starr, sir?
Absolutely. I wanted to get my disclosures in as well. Again, I represent this area of town. I've talked to a lot of the neighbors and have had a chance to do that visit. And in fact, I made an unplanned visit to Mr. Cohn's establishment on Saturday afternoon or Saturday morning late when my daughter needed to use the restroom in an emergency. So we were very familiar. If we were voting on this tonight on Mr. and Mrs. Cohn's business acumen and the way they treat our community, it would be a no-brainer. I don't think anyone here, including the neighbors who are opposed and those of us that may vote against this or for it, question Mr. Cohn's integrity at all and as a business person. So I want to make sure that I make that clear. But I am also very concerned that would we open a bar in this neighborhood, and that's really what we're doing, and would this be a suitable location for an alcohol license if it was standing alone? And I think I'd feel the same as I do when we add video lottery on top of that, and I'd be opposed to that. I do have one question for the city attorney, though, because depending on how this goes, would we be allowed to add a condition, because this is an appeal process? Could we add conditions, whether it's smoking or a 10 p.m. closing time?
Yes, and thank you, Councilor. Paul Bangford on behalf of the City Attorney's Office. I do want to make sure, because some of the conversation has morphed, and so I just want to make sure that what we are deciding on, and obviously this is a council decision, but I want to make sure that what we are deciding on is what the law allows us to decide on. There's been conversation about the on-sale alcohol license, but there's also been conversation about video lottery at this place. I want to make it clear that the current decision, and there are various things on the agenda, but the one that's on the agenda right now deals with the request for on-sale alcohol. The state laws preempt us from making. There is no city ordinance on conditional use permits for video lottery. There's a state law that addresses that we may get to later in the agenda. But what we're deciding right now is the issue of the on-sale alcohol license. And to answer your question, briefly, yes, you can put conditions on it. But if I may, I want to go into just say what you should be basing your decision on in reference to this particular item. If you look at our ordinances in terms of 160.609B2, that sets forth any decision to grant a conditional use shall be based on and accompanied by a statement regarding, and these are the things that you are to consider in reaching your decision. First of all, the objectives of the comprehensive plan. So that should be considered in reaching your decision on this alcohol license. B, the purpose of the zoning ordinance and its relevant zoning districts when making a decision to approve or disapprove a conditional use permit. And I know that Mr. Schmidt has information on those if any of the councilors want to seek any additional in reference to A and B. And also C, the stated conditional use standards within section 160.616. Now, when we're looking at those for on-sale alcohol, first I think it's important for us to look at the general conditions under 160.616. All of that general conditions are important, but the last sentence of that indicates that in all cases, the impact of the proposed use on the adjacent properties will be a major consideration. So in terms of considering the impact of on-sale alcohol on the adjacent properties, that is something you are entitled to make a major consideration in this, whichever way you decide it. But then when you go within 160.616 double N, which specifically deals with the on-sale alcohol beverages, there are 4 criteria that you are specifically supposed to look at in terms of parking spaces, lighting, soundproofing, and whether there's a security management plan that you believe to be adequate. Now, you can reach various decisions on that. You can determine that, if you look at it, if you determine that there's no security management plan that can adequately satisfy you, that is something that you could consider. If you consider that if you add a couple of conditions like what you asked, can you add additional conditions absolutely you have the authority to do that. You have the ability to add additional conditions. I just want to make sure that when we are ruling on this piece, the advice you are getting from our office is this is about the on-sale alcohol. We are not at the point on this where we're talking about video lottery, but you can consider the 160.609 to A, B, C, and when you go to the 616 individually, a major consideration is the impact on the neighborhood. And so thank you for letting me answer your question. I know I've probably gone a little more in depth than you want, but I just ask you to consider the right things when you're making the decision.
It's what I expect from the attorney's office. Mr. Mayor, just if I can finish up quickly, I'm going to be voting no on this. I'm not going to add conditions at this point. I don't think it makes sense. I think that Attorney Bingford did a nice job of giving me several reasons why I'll be opposed to this moving forward.
Councilor Rolfing.
I wanted to make sure, get the information from Mr. Bangford for everybody and myself also, so I'm set.
Thank you. Councilor Buck.
And I have all the same disclosures as everybody else does. All of your input has been great. I appreciate it. Very often when we have these conversations, it kind of comes down to, and Mr. Bangford put it into lots and lots of words. For me, it comes down to two things. Is it a suitable person or is it a suitable location? In this case, it has absolutely nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Cohn. This is absolutely a suitable person in terms of the business style that you do. This is absolutely an unsuitable location. This is not. I keep thinking about the 2 blocks from my house where we have really kind of light commercial areas. If someone decided 2 blocks from my house to on that corner where there's just a little strip thing that could be commercial, if they decided they want to put a video lottery in there 2 blocks from my house, I'm not okay with that. She's going to have it 80 feet from her house. I'm not okay with that. It's not a suitable location. I am voting no.
A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing.
No.
Selberg.
No.
Starr.
No.
Staley.
No.
Erickson.
No.
Erpenbach.
No.
Kiley.
No.
Neitzer.
No.
That is passed 0 to 8. Item 24. I'm sorry,
failed.
that is
That is
failed
failed.
0 to 8. My apologies, folks. It is failed 0 to 8. Item 24.
Excuse me. Item 24.
Folks, no. Item 24.
Item 24 is a new 2018 retail liquor license with Sunday sales certificate for Sand Trap Incorporated, Bogies, 815 South Marion Road. CUP not required. This is in addition to an existing license. Item 25 is a new 2018 retail wine license for G&W Incorporated, Gary Cohn's BP, 1027 South Cleveland Avenue, Suite 101, with conditional use permit 7432-2017 being approved on October 4th, 2017. Item 26 is a request to include video lottery terminals with the new 2018 retail wine license for G&W Incorporated, Gary Cohn's BP, 1027 South Cleveland Avenue, Suite 101, with conditional use permit 7432-2017 being approved on October 4th, 2017. Item 27, special one-day malt beverage and special one-day wine licenses for Butterfly House and Aquarium to be operated at 4320 South Oxbow Avenue for an MB Women's Leadership Mixer on November 14th, 2017. Item 28, special one-day liquor license for East River Legal Services to be operated at 335 North Main Avenue, Suite 200 for a fundraiser on November 28th, 2017. Item 29, special one-day malt beverage and special one-day wine licenses for the Sioux Falls Multicultural Center to be operated at 515 North Main Avenue for a fundraiser on December 9th, 2017. Item 30, special one-day malt beverage and special one-day wine licenses for Holy Spirit Knights of Columbus to be operated at Holy Spirit Church Gymnasium, 4309 South Bonson Avenue for a fundraiser on January 27th, 2018.
Good evening, Jamie Palmer with licensing. Item 24, as Tamara read, is a request to add a retail liquor license. This current location has a retail malt and wine license. This is just an additional license that they would like to add to their business model. Items 25 and 26 will will require a vote to deny or withdraw those from the council. Those 2 items were based on your vote on item 23. So therefore, since you denied the conditional use permit, those will not be able to go through. Items 27 through 30 are all special one-day licenses that have met the state law requirements. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So Jamie, are you recommending that we have a motion to approve item 24 and then 27 through 30?
Correct.
Folks, could I just get a motion? Thank you.
Second, Star.
Seconded. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Selberg? Starr?
Yes.
Staley? Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 31.
We need action on 25 and 26.
Move
We
to,
need to deny those.
Don't we?
do we move?
I would move to withdraw items 25, 26.
Second, Star.
Been a motion to withdraw items 25 and 26. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing? Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley? Erickson? Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Thank you, council. Item 31.
Item 31 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located at 208, 212, and 214 North Nesmith Avenue from the RT1 Single Family Residential Traditional District to the RD2 Townhome Residential Suburban District, petition number 7233, 2017, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval 8-0.
Jeffrey?
Thank you, Tamara. This item is a rezoning. They have 3 vacant lots in the RT1, which is a residential traditional area, and they're planning on building 4 townhome units on this site. So they're rezoning it to RD2 to allow for these townhome units, and this is the site plan for it along Nesmith Avenue. The applicant is Affordable Housing, and the applicant's here this evening.
Thanks, Jeff. Did anybody want to speak to this item?
Move approval, Rolfing.
Been a motion to approve.
Second, Erickson.
Has been seconded. Any discussion? A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley? Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 32.
Item 32 is the second reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located west of North Cactus Drive and south of East Imani Ridge Place from the AG Agricultural District to the RS Single Family Residential Suburban District, petition number 7287, 2017, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval 8-0.
This is up in the northeast part of town. It's already been rezoned to RS. There's some remnant pieces that the property owner owns and needs to zone it into from ag to RS, so they're able to build the single-family development that they're proposing up in this area. The single-family units, I think within this application at 6.2 acres, the entire development's 30 acres.
Folks, the second reading. Does anybody want to engage the council on this topic? Council?
Move to second.
There's been a motion approved by Council Vice Chair, seconded by the Chair. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 33.
Item 33 is a second reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located north of East 85th Street and east of South Minnesota Avenue from the AG Agricultural and RA2 Apartment Residential Moderate Density Districts to the RA2 Apartment Residential Moderate Density and C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar Districts, petition number 7434, 2017, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval 8-0.
This is South Central Sioux Falls. It's just north of 85th Street. You've already rezoned it to RA2 for apartments. As you can see, there's a remnant of ag along the public right-of-way. So they're cleaning that up so that they can build the RA2 and C2 for this parcel. And the applicant is here if you have any questions for her.
Did anybody want to engage the council on this topic? Councilors?
Move to approve, Erpenbach.
Second.
It's been a motion to approve. It has been seconded. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Thank you. Item 34.
Item 34 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located west of South Franklin Avenue and between East 6th Street and East 8th Street from the unzoned railroad right-of-way to the DTPUD Downtown Planned Unit Development District. Petition number 7440-2017, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval 8-0.
As I mentioned at first reading, this image shows everything. We're rezoning the railroad right-of-way, which shows up as nothing, to the downtown plan unit development, because everything in this area is purple. It needs to be zoned downtown. We're the applicants, as the City of Sioux Falls. Planning's doing this one now that the railroad's been vacated.
Jeffrey, thank you. Did anybody want to speak to this item?
I would happily move approval.
Thank you, Counselor.
Second, Urbanbach.
Has been seconded. Thank you very much. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Thank you, Council. That is passed 8-0. Item 35.
Item 35 is to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, November 21st, 2017 at 7 o'clock p.m. First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by revising Section 37.038, providing for rural service district lands.
Rural Service District in the City of Sioux Falls is taken under consideration with our taxation area. Any applicant within the City of Sioux Falls, if they're currently doing rural property, can be taxed at that property value. On an annual basis, we come in here and clean these up. We're changing 8 properties at this point. 4 have been removed because of development, and 4 have been removed, or 5 because of replatting. It's all done based upon their legal descriptions, and we're cleaning these all up to help the property owners move forward with their development.
Jeffrey, thank you. Council, this is first reading. Any comments? Would anybody want to set a date of hearing?
I will set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, November 21st at 7 p.m.
Second. Thank you, Councilor Nitzert. Thank you, Councilor Rolfing. If no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Thank you, Council. Item 36.
Item 36 is a resolution deferred from the City Council meeting of Tuesday, September 19th, 2017, a resolution vacating a portion of the Mall Avenue right-of-way as shown on Exhibit A.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
I'll make a
Councilor.
motion to defer that to Tuesday, December 5th.
Second.
Thank you. Council Vice Chair Erickson's made a motion to defer this item to December 5th, seconded by Council Chair Kiley. Any discussion? A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Thank you. Item 37.
Item 37 is a resolution of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, correcting the legal description of annexation resolution number 9917, annexation 6419-2017, Dalco Edition, East 57th Street and Highway 11.
You approved this annexation request of the property owner back in September. The city staff put in the wrong legal description. You can see we used 10148. Down below we needed to have 149. So we're correcting this legal to move it forward.
Jeffrey, thank you. Folks, did anyone want to speak to this item? Councilors?
Move approval, Erickson.
Second, Rolfing.
Councilors, thank you very much. Motion approved has been seconded. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson? Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Item 38, please.
Item 38 is a report of the October 23rd, 2017 notice of transfer of appropriations within major organizational units.
Item 39.
Item 39 is a report of the October 31st, 2017 notice of transfer of appropriations within major organizational units.
Great job tonight. Thank you very much. Councilors, any new business?
Move to adjourn.
There's been a motion to adjourn. It has been seconded. City of Sioux Falls, these folks that are serving you have put in one heck of a long day. Very, very productive day. All those in favor of leaving, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That is passed. Make it a great night, Sioux Falls. Thank you for your service, City Council. Take care.